I'd like to invite Dapeng Hu to join us also, perhaps a little bit briefly. He's a managing director and the head of mortgage modeling at BlackRock Solutions. He's a member of BlackRock's fixed income global research team, and his primary responsibilities include directing development of BlackRock's mortgage prepayment and credit models and conducting relative value research on MBS and ABS. Without further ado, let me welcome Dapeng to our lunch conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks for inviting me here. Feel like Mindy's passionate call for investor action really set the stage very well here. And just for a way of introduction, and what Bob said was totally true. That was like what I did 2 years ago. And I'm now running the analytics research and modeling department in Aladdin Sustainability Lab at BlackRock. The Sustainability Lab is formed just last year, officially formed last year, and really to carry on the mission to build analytics tools platform to help investors to narrate the sustainability investing and manage risks. So yeah, before last year, I was the co-head of the BlackRock financial modeling group and responsible for valuation, risk modeling, as well as deliver through the Aladdin to BlackRock and our clients there. So let me start with some context. So at BlackRock, we do believe climate risk is investment risk, and climate change has and will continue to cause substantial damage to the society and the economy. And the transition to a low carbon economy has started and will shape and reshape the global economy, whether it is managed successfully or not. However, the climate impact and the transition path forward are both with uncertainty and uneven. In the transition, particularly, the different part of the economy move at a different speed, and then a significant reallocation of resources were required. So this process will bring in value creation and destruction. So it's already driving a start to the company fundamentals and asset valuation, and therefore, the investment risk and opportunity. So we cannot ignore that we must carefully consider all that, and moreover, understanding how the journey will unfold, and which is really critical. And also, ask ourselves, how our investment impact the climate and the transition. So as we narrate the uncertainty, it's important to keep in mind that, we also need to be humble regarding as we work through these challenges. And climate is very complex, and then put the climate and the transition together as super complex with lots of uncertainties. So we try to be approximately right. Instead, we try running the risk of being precisely wrong. So we must be careful there. And so in the next less than 10 minutes, I will try to outline the transmission channel from the climate risk to the investment risk, and then give a brief overview what we are doing in Aladdin Climate as a platform for managing the climate risk, and then discuss our modeling approach to model this both physical and transition risks there. So if we can,
excuse me, Dapeng, we're looking forward to hearing this, but we've actually pretty much exhausted the time. Can you be kind of brief about what you want to say?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. So if you move to the next slide, I'll be quick. I think by now, this morning and Mindy's talk, we have pretty much established, the climate risk is investment risk through, all the potential cost, of flood, of tornado, or the extreme events. Here is just to show a study from the Rhodium Group, and basically their study shows that the climate change impact by 2030 will be actually significantly larger than the COVID impact. And then to fight that, is a big challenge, and that will require large investment. That Mindy also mentioned this, the IEA's estimation on the right will require about like $4 to $5 trillion a year, which is consistent with Mindy's estimation there. So all those both physical change and transition change will be substantially impact, our asset and asset return, as well as different sector and resource allocation, etc. So if we can move to the next slide. And so what do we do in Aladdin? So basically, we're building a platform really to help investors to assess and translate those risks into the financial term, as well as to narrate the transition, in looking the investment opportunities and risks there. And this is built on the strong foundation of Aladdin's risk management system. As many of you know, for many years, we have been building investment and risk management system and analytics, including data, model, tools for security evaluation, portfolio risk, portfolio construction. So on the bedrock of all that, we created new functions in the system. Largely those four areas. The first is climate change and then transition scenarios. So that's where we leverage our climate science and climate science models and to create the climate change and then downscaling the climate change pathway into the local, and then assess the impact to the local economy, to the asset, to the issuers. And then another part of it is on the transition scenario. That's where we leverage all the policy and technology research, and then try to develop the transition pathways. And there's lots of industry standard or industry transition scenarios like NGFS, IEAs there. And most of those scenarios are like the normative, in the sense that if we want to reach the scenario 1.5 degree, and then what we should do. But those normative scenario and doesn't help very well for the investors' use, because investors want to speculate what's going to happen, what's the reality, what put a probability on those scenarios. So that's where we started this, we call the BlackRock transition scenario, that effort. We can provide the view and machinery, so to create the investor's own view at the input driven and then more realistic scenarios, and we can track that as well. Then on the physical and the transition side, so we link those scenarios into the asset level, basically to assess the impact on the assets. This is really bottom-up approach. The impact on the assets in terms of the operation cost, in terms of the revenue disruption, as well as where you see these positive opportunities from the transition. So that's through lots of detailed asset and then analysis, corporate balance sheet. And then we can provide, in terms of exposure, in terms of the impact to the asset level, security level, and portfolio level. Then the last function is basically the net zero. That's where we help investor to answer the question: what does your portfolio do to the climate? What does your portfolio do to the how your investment impact the transition? So with all that, we can empower the investors, to really three key things, on regulatory stress testing, climate reporting, then provide the investment intelligence to do, relative value or the risk analysis, and then also help lots of investors, in the investment stewardship, so to advocate and examine the investment companies there. So last slide, just want to really discuss, this is the modeling conference there. I want to discuss what's our approach. This is our approach, basically try to combine, all the climate science research, economic research, as well as the fundamental financial valuation and portfolio risk modeling all together. So largely it goes with those four pillars. And the first, is this scenario generation. As I said, we employ the industry standard scenarios, but in the same time, and we also have our own climate scientists, climate science models, and then macroeconomic research and policy research, to create the scenarios, doing the downscaling to the local, to the sectors, as well as, create more scenarios to reflect the investor view. So that's, through a global circulation model, global transition model. And then the second part is, given those scenarios, how do we assess this economic impact? So basically, we need to convert those both the physical change as well as the transition projection, into the regional, into the sector, and in the national economics. So those are the so-called the penalty functions from the physical side, as well as the economic impact models on the transition part for different sectors, different regions. Well, then the third step is really quantify those impact from the macro and from sector, linked to the asset, linked to the company, to conduct the detailed balance sheet analysis, for example, try to assess the corporate, in terms of their operation cost versus their capex requirement in order to do the transition, and how that impacted, the profit margin, the EBITDA, then convert that into the bottom line impact. And on the physical side, we would, for example, it's an investment on real estate properties, we will assess what's the operation cost, what's the impact on the revenue in terms of the rent and the vacancy, and how that impact the discount rate, etc. So then the last step, we put all this together. So then that's where we combine with our traditional financial models and put all those, into the real impact in terms of the financial performance, into the company's and weather or climate performance, the implied temperature change, potential forward-looking temperature change, etc. So this morning I heard
Would this be a good
research
place? Would this be a good place to stop? Actually, we're
Yes.
really getting behind, and I think
Right,
you've done a nice
so
job.
I'll stop here, Bob. I'll stop here. Just want to mention really, I feel like lots of topics this morning very relevant to our to the research here. So we are really open here and looking for collaboration.
Great. Well, we are looking forward and enjoying our collaboration with you, and BlackRock is certainly a leader in providing and actually talking about the importance of climate risk in the asset management world. And so it's very nice of you to be with us today.